I understand the situation. We need to be careful.
Have you ever wondered what a mother would do to protect her son's heart? What if she went undercover, disguised herself, and walked into his life as someone completely unrecognizable just to uncover the truth? What would drive a billionaire's mother to pretend she was just the cleaner? And more importantly, what happens when secrets unravel, paths collide, and love is caught in the crossfire? This isn't just a story about wealth, deception, or romance. It's about trust, sacrifice, and the lengths one woman will go to find out who is really worthy of her son's heart. You won't believe how deep this story goes. So before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Because stories like this filled with unexpected twists and raw emotion are just getting started. Drop a comment below. Would you go this far for someone you love? And stay with us until the very end, because the final twist changes everything. Let's begin. They say money can buy everything except love. And that's exactly what one determined mother knew all too well. When you raise the mother of one of the wealthiest bachelors in the country, a man whose face is splashed across magazines, whose net worth climbs with each sunrise, and whose life is guarded behind velvet ropes and security gates, you begin to realize something tragic. Your son might never find real love. Not because he's not lovable, but because no one can see past his fortune. So she hatched a plan. A plan so bold, so secretive, and so unexpected, not even her son saw it coming. Margaret Voss, widow of billionaire industrialist Richard Voss, had watched her only son Daniel rise from a gifted child to a global tycoon. He built an empire by 29, but at 35, his life was filled with mergers, acquisitions, and boardroom wars. No time for romance. And worse, he didn't trust anyone. Not after 3 public betrayals from women who only wanted his money. But Margaret wanted a daughter-in-law who loved Daniel, not his name. A woman who saw the man, not the brand. So what did she do? She vanished. At least from high society. Gone were the designer dresses, the pearls, the private jets. For 3 months, Margaret Voss disappeared from the social registry. Her friends whispered rumors. Illness? Maybe. A secret trip to Europe. But none of them guessed the truth. She had moved into Daniel's newest luxury property undercover as the new cleaning lady. A wrinkled uniform, a wig of grey curls, thick glasses, and a new name, Martha. Hired through an agency she herself owned, Martha the cleaner now had full access to Daniel's stuff, his house, and his life. Now, let's pause for a moment and imagine this. The billionaire's own mother scrubbing countertops, folding laundry, and picking up after guests, all while carefully observing every woman who walked through those doors. Because here's the twist. Daniel had recently started hiring more people at the mansion, including a new events coordinator, a florist, a chef, and a living assistant, all young, ambitious. And all of them women Margaret watched closely who looked Daniel in the eyes, who listened when he spoke, who treated the staff with kindness, even the invisible ones like Martha the cleaner. It didn't take long before one woman stood out. Her name was Elena, a quiet, graceful woman with a soft voice and calloused hands, proof of hard work. She was the new floral designer, a role that seemed small, but she treated it like it mattered. She spoke to Martha every morning, asked about her back, brought her tea, and once even defended her when another staff member scoffed at her slowness. Margaret took notice. Elena wasn't like the others. She didn't gossip. She didn't flirt with Daniel, in fact. She seemed intimidated by him, and that intrigued Margaret even more. Meanwhile, Daniel was beginning to notice her too. One day, while walking past the courtyard, he paused as Ellen arranged a spray of wildflowers near the fountain. He asked about the colors. She explained their meanings. He smiled and walked away. But the next day, he returned. And the next. Margaret, from behind her mop, saw it all. The beginnings of something real. Something fragile. Something precious. And yet, the story was only beginning. Because Elena had secrets of her own. She wasn't just a florist. And her resume, it was real, but not complete. There were gaps. Moments of her life she didn't talk about. Pain in her eyes that no bouquet could hide. Margaret grew curious. She began to dig carefully, discreetly. And what she found shocked her. Elena had once been engaged to a man who vanished, left her bankrupt, heartbroken. She had lost her home. Her family blamed her. She'd rebuilt from nothing, working job to job, never asking for help. That strength, that resilience, made Margaret admire her even more. But now came the risk. How long could Margaret keep her identity a secret? The staff was beginning to talk. Why did Martha never speak of family? Why did she always seem to know things before they happened? And more importantly, what would Elena do if she found out the kind old cleaner wasn't a cleaner at all? Even Daniel, sharp as he was, began to sense something odd. One night, during a power outage, Daniel sat at the kitchen table, a flashlight in hand, sipping cold coffee. Martha entered to check on him. Their conversation drifted into deeper waters. She asked him if he was lonely. He looked at her. Sometimes, he admitted. But it's hard to know who's real. Margaret's heart ached. She was doing this for him, but lying to him too. And then everything changed. A scandal hit the headlines. One of the mansion staff was caught leaking information to tabloids. Not just gossip, but floor plans, schedules, and photos of Daniel's private moments. Security locked down. Trust was shattered. Everyone became a suspect. And amidst the chaos, Daniel fired half the staff, including Martha. He didn't even look her in the eyes. She packed her things silently, leaving her mop and bucket behind. Elena wept when she found out. But the story didn't end there. Because what Daniel didn't know, what no one knew, was that Martha had left something behind. A letter, not to Daniel, but to Elena, a test a key, and a request. And what happened next is what changed everything. Elena, clutching the letter, walked straight to Daniel's office. Her eyes no longer shy. Her hands no longer trembling. She handed him the envelope. And when he read the words inside, everything stopped. He dropped into his chair. Speechless, confused, angry, hopeful. Because the letter said one thing Daniel, I lied to you. My name is Margaret Voss. I am your mother. And the woman who gave you back your smile is standing right in front of you. And just when you think you've seen it all, the next chapter begins. Because Daniel now faced a choice that would shape his life forever. A test of love, of trust, or of forgiveness. And Elena, she had a decision of her own one that would reveal who she truly was, not just to Daniel, but to the world. But we'll get to that soon, because this story is far from over. In fact, the real surprise hasn't even happened yet. Daniel didn't sleep that night. The letter shook him to his core. His mother, whom he thought had been visiting Switzerland, recovering from stress, had been under his nose this entire time, cleaning his home, listening, not watching. And Elena, she had known before he did. And yet, she brought the letter to him honestly, without hesitation. His mind raced. Questions came in waves. Why had his mother gone to such lengths? Why didn't she trust him to find love on his own? Was Ellen a part of this deception all along? By sunrise, he sat alone on the balcony, staring over the city skyline, the cold morning breeze biting at his skin. He didn't feel like a billionaire anymore. Not a mogul, not a brand. Just a man. A confused man, unsure who he could believe. But Margaret wasn't finished. While Daniel wrestled with truth, she moved in secret once more. This time not as a cleaner, but as herself. She returned to her estate, a sprawling vineyard tucked in the hills far from the city where she began her next move. And no one knew what it was. Elena, meanwhile, faced something even more personal. Now that the truth was out, rumors ran wild among the former staff. Some accused her of using Margaret's trust to climb her way into Daniel's world. Others whispered that she had planned it all, that she was just another gold digger, more clever than the rest. But Elena said nothing. She let their words blow past her like wind through reeds. Because she wasn't interested in defending herself. She was preparing to leave. Packing her few things, she returned the gardener's tools, left a thank you note on the kitchen table, and disappeared without fanfare. Not even Daniel knew she was gone until the next afternoon, when he passed the garden and saw only empty flower beds where her careful arrangements once stood. For the first time in months, the mansion felt cold. The silence echoed. And Daniel began to wonder, had he just lost the one person who ever truly saw him? He searched Dot quietly. No bodyguards. No private investigators. Just him, a jacket, and a list of places she had mentioned once in passing, a small cafe where she used to write poetry. A lakeside park where her mother's ashes were scattered. A used bookstore she said smelled like home. But she was in none of them. Elena had vanished. And just as he was about to give up, fate did something unexpected. Daniel's phone buzzed. It was a message from a number he didn't recognize, no words. Just a photo. It was a handmade bouquet, sitting on the steps of a small chapel in the countryside. Flowers with meanings only he and Elena had discussed. Wild iris for hope. White lilac for youthful memories. And a single red peony, a symbol of honor and love. He stared at the photo for a long time. It was a sign. A breadcrumb. A message, come find me, but not with your name. With your heart. He got in the car. 3 hours later, he stood before the chapel. No paparazzi. No one to rush. Just him and the sound of birds in the trees. Inside, there were no pews. Just a single woman sitting in the front, her head bowed. It was Elena. He took a step forward. She didn't turn around. Another step. Still silence. Then finally she spoke. Did your mother send you? No, he said. She tried. But I didn't come because of her. I came because you saw me. Before I saw myself, she turned. Her eyes met his. And in that moment, a new story began. But the wounds weren't healed yet. Trust, once cracked, doesn't mend in a moment. Elena told him everything. About her past. About the man who left her. About why she didn't run from Margaret a secret, but also why she couldn't stay after it was revealed. She needed to know that he chose her. Not because of his mother. Not because of obligation. But because his heart was free and saw her. Daniel listened. Not with the ears of a CEO or the skepticism of a man burned by love, but with the soul of someone finally ready to open himself to risk. They walked for hours. Through the fields. By the river bank. They talked about childhood memories. Favorite songs, scars, regrets. They didn't make promises, not yet. Because love, they realized, isn't born in grand gestures, it's built in quiet choices, one honest word at a time. But while they were finding their footing, another storm was brewing. Back in the city, Margaret had been approached by someone from her past. A man named Harold Kingston, an old business rival of her late husband. Suave, cunning, and holding a secret. He claimed he had evidence that Elena's ex-fiancé, yes, the one who vanished, had ties to a major corporate scandal. One that involved insider trading and possibly a connection to Daniel's company. He warned Margaret, your little matchmaking game may have just brought a traitor into your son's life. Margaret didn't believe him. But doubt is like poison, it only takes a drop. She flew to the city at once, her heart racing. If Harold was lying, it meant nothing. But if he was right, it meant Elena's past might destroy everything they were building. And here is where everything begins to unravel. Because what Margaret didn't know was that Harold wasn't after Daniel. He was after her. He had spent years watching from the sidelines, envious, calculating. And now he saw a crack in the boss family, something he could exploit. But the real question is, how far will someone go to sabotage love that's finally finding its way? And can the truth survive when lies are dressed as warnings? Because even now, as Daniel and Elena begin to rebuild something fragile and beautiful, new shadows are moving. New secrets are rising. And someone is watching. Margaret had learned to trust her instincts. They had carried her through business wars, social scandals, and decades of widowhood. But this time, they were tangled. Twisted between love for her son, the hope she saw in Elena, and the dangerous whispers planted by Harold Kingston. She needed proof. So Margaret didn't confront Elena, not yet. Instead, she reached out to someone few knew. She was still in contact with Isabel Crane, a private intelligence specialist and her late husband's most trusted advisor. Sharp, discreet, and precise, Isabel operated in shadows, following paper trails and digital footprints with surgical accuracy. I want the full truth, Margaret told her. About Elena. About her ex. About any connection real or planted to Harold. Isabel nodded, already opening her tablet. And if the truth isn't what you want to hear, I'll deal with that when we get there. Meanwhile, miles away from this unfolding investigation, Daniel had taken Elena to the vineyard. Not as a grand gesture, but as a retreat. A quiet space away from the media, the mansion, the pressure. Here, he wasn't the billionaire. He was simply Daniel, a man learning how to be vulnerable. They spent mornings picking grapes, afternoons baking in the old kitchen, and nights on the balcony reading books by lantern light. And slowly, Daniel started to breathe again. Elena, too, found moments of peace. But in the back of her mind, a shadow lingered the unfinished business of her past. The man who betrayed her. The deals he vanished into. And most of all, the documents she still kept in a locked case. A file marked J. Raw, holdings and transfers. She had never told Daniel about it. Not because she wanted secrets, but because she didn't know if it was safe. But she was about to find out it wasn't just dangerous. It was explosive. Because while she slept one night, the cottage was being watched. Two men in an unmarked car parked beyond the tree line, cameras, scanners. Not ordinary thugs, corporate mercenaries trained in digital extraction. They weren't after money. They were after data. Elena's ex-fiancé Jacob Rowe had disappeared with millions in untraceable crypto accounts linked to an illegal merger between two global tech giants. The fallout had been buried, quieted by money and NDA letters. But someone knew Elena still had access to key evidence. And now they were coming for it. Isabel, working in parallel, picked up digital signals from the hack surveillance drones being used at the vineyard. She called Margaret at once. "They are watching her," she said. "Not your son, not you." Her Margaret didn't hesitate. She boarded her jet that same night. And at the same time, Elena found something unsettling. A small black device tucked behind the bookshelf. A tracker. Sophisticated or shielded. Military grade. Her hands shook. She rushed to Daniel, heart pounding. "They know where I am," she whispered. "They are watching me." Daniel froze. "Who's watching you?" And that's when she told him everything. The files. The accounts. The names. His blood ran cold. Not because she had secrets, but because those secrets could get her killed. He called in his own people cybersecurity teams, private protection agencies, digital forensics experts. But even they were a step behind. Because someone inside his own company had leaked her location, a mole. A betrayal. And now there was no safe place left. Daniel and Elena disappeared from the vineyard before dawn. No goodbyes, no notes. Just a silent departure into the fog. Margaret arrived hours later, only to find the place deserted and evidence of surveillance everywhere. And now, all three of them, Margaret, Daniel, and Elena, were moving independently toward the same terrifying truth that the man Elena once loved was now deeply embedded in a criminal web reaching into the very companies Daniel controlled. That Harold Kingston's warning wasn't just a manipulation, it was part of a wider play. He wasn't trying to protect Daniel. He was trying to take his empire. But how? Isabel followed the trail. Hidden behind offshore accounts, shell corporations, and falsified identities, she discovered a name that hadn't appeared in years: Jonathan Innes. A silent investor. Unknown to the public. Secret stakeholder in several of Daniel's rivals. But Isabel recognized the name. Because Jonathan Innes was one of Harold Kingston's oldest aliases. This wasn't just sabotage. It was a long game, a coup. Carefully seeded years ago, and now finally blooming. Harold had been waiting for the perfect storm: Daniel's emotional vulnerability, his mother's absence from the business board, the media focus on his personal life, all while using Elena's connection to Jacob Rowe to discredit the Voss family. But what Harold didn't expect was this: Elena wasn't afraid anymore. She had survived betrayal, exile, and humiliation. And now she was angry. With Margaret's blessing and Isabel's help, she prepared to go public. Not to expose her ex, but to expose the system. The network of deception. The corporate rot infecting the industries Daniel had worked so hard to build cleanly. They planned everything. A digital drop of files to trusted journalists. A press conference in a neutral location. Backups of the documents across 5 countries. And a list of names that would bring down giants. But just hours before the release, one of their allies vanished. A tech journalist named Raphael Jean, who had been coordinating the digital dump, was found missing from his Bangkok apartment. Laptop gone. Phone smashed. Passport untouched. The message was clear. Back off. Or more will disappear. Now, the stakes weren't just about love or reputation. They were about survival. And yet, neither Daniel nor Elena was backing down. Because now, it wasn't just about their story. It was about every worker cheated by false pensions. Every investor misled by doctored earnings. Every truth buried by money and fear. And so, as the clock ticks toward the reveal, enemies closing. Allies fade into silence. And somewhere in the shadows, Jacob Rowe resurfaces with one final message. You should have stayed hidden, Elena. Now it's too late, but is it? Because while they think Elena is alone, what they don't know is that Margaret Boss has just made a call. And the person who picked up was once known as the Vulture of Zurich, and she doesn't take kindly to threats. And so, from a mother disguised as a cleaner, to a forgotten past that exploded into the present, what began as a quiet search for love became a storm of secrets, betrayals, and courage. Margaret was only wanted to find someone who could love her son for who he truly was. But in doing so, she uncovered something far deeper, a network of lies built on power, fear, and greed. A buried conspiracy with roots reaching into the empire her family built. And a love between Daniel and Elena, fragile, honest, tested by fire that refused to break. Elena's past could have destroyed everything. Daniel's trust could have collapsed. And Margaret could have walked away after her deception was exposed. But instead, they fought together. For truth, for love. And for a future not dictated by fear or fortune, but by integrity. Harold Kingston thought he could manipulate the Voss family from the shadows. He didn't count on the cleaner being the queen. He didn't count on the woman he once underestimated standing tall with a voice louder than his silence. And he never imagined that a legacy built on deception would be undone by something as simple and as powerful as love. Now, the world is watching. The files have been released. The truth is out. And this is only the beginning. Because behind every mansion door, behind every boardroom window, behind every public smile, there are still secrets waiting to be revealed. And as long as there are voices brave enough to speak, the story continues. Thank you so much for watching. If this story gripped your heart, surprised you, or made you think, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let us know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Margaret's shoes? Would you go undercover for your child's happiness? And if you want to see more stories like this filled with drama, secrets, and unexpected twists, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss what comes next. We've got more unbelievable stories coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and stay with us, because the truth always finds its way.